Many had thought once First Republic was taken into receivership on Monday or Sunday night that we would be through this, including the likes of Jamie Dimon and many others. We may not be. It may be being created by those who are shorting the stocks, the very panic that then would lead to some of the outcomes that we're talking about. But nonetheless, here we are. So,
but David, I mean, you're talking about really fine institutions that are key to the fabric of our country, an M&T, a Regions, a Citizens, a Truist. We can't not have Huntington Bank.
No.
I mean, if you're a congressman right now and you have the depth of what your community is about, I think you would say, did Jay Powell read the papers?
I know. We may need more consolidation. We've said that.
But
what do you mean? Jay Powell raised rates 25 basis points yesterday with seemingly a necessary concern about exactly what the tightening is going to be like that comes from all these banks that aren't going to be lending anymore.
Well, his point yesterday in the presser was that when he was in government, there were many more banks than there are today. So consolidation's been going on for a long time.
Right. Well, if we want consolidation, we could have, I'd say, some real midnight or 3 a.m. consolidation going on. The problem is, David, PNC's in one of these indices. That's in the second index, the IIT. People are so busy breaking PNC. How do they have the ability to be able to be the merger? Or the consolidator?
PacWest would like to be consolidated, but at this point, its market cap is virtually
one
nothing.
Thing you don't do. I mean, I really appreciate when insiders buy stock.
Yeah.
But, you know, this thing's happening so fast that I don't sit there and say, well, you know what, geez, there's some insider stock bought. What I say is, okay, everybody, did they not realize when they put J.P. Morgan together, these others, that they left the door open here, the FDIC left the door open for a Comerica, which is an extraordinarily good bank. In the 30s, Comerica was an extraordinarily good bank. That Comerica could be broken by these indices. I think that this notion of breaking a stock is so alien to what the FDIC is that they were somewhat kind of like Bambi. Bambi did not Bambi's mom. I'm giving him a little heads up.
Right.
But there's a thumper notice here, just to use literally something
naivete.
Everybody
You're talking
knows.
about naivete. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that, like, when I look at a PacWest, it was almost instantaneous with the press conference being over. When you realize, David, he didn't address what's happening. But he doesn't favor national.
You mean Powell?
Jay Powell does not want national consolidation.
He did argue yesterday, and this was one of the elements that made some people feel it was dovish, was that the credit tightening now is not a theory, it's a fact, and suggested that the loan officer survey we're going to see is going to reflect that.
Well, I mean, right now they're lucky because I've not found anyone other than auto companies who say that there's been any sort of strict lending. But again, I want to go over the need of this country to have a key bank. You know, Chris Gorman who's an excellent banker. This is a Cleveland bank key. If we decide that it's not an imperative, this is what I went over Sunday night. If we decide it's not an imperative to save a key, which in no means is in trouble, then what do we do?
Do you, really quick, this Gallup poll this morning that shows that nearly half of U.S. adults are worried about the safety of their deposits. It's a higher number than in 2008, higher number than in the GFC. You think that is reasonable?
Yes, I think that if you're a fiduciary, you don't have any choice because I don't know how you would face the police athletic league that you may have $300,000 in, and they lose $50,000 because they didn't take it out of blah, blah, blah savings.
Yeah. I mean, again, though, every time we're going to have a failure, if we have any more, there's going to be a systemic exemption and all the deposits will be covered, or it's going to be sold to a bank that takes them over.
Look,
a la what happened with First Republic and J.P. Morgan. So I don't know how concerned you really should be.
Well, there's no concern except for the fact that these are the fabric of America.
I know, but
have you ever tried to raise money? When you want to raise money for a charity, go to J.P. Morgan.
When it comes to it, you're not actually going to lose your money. So don't move your money because you won't lose your money.
But you want to see a consolidation and a radical decline in lending.
That's a larger issue.
Well, some would point to the Russell this morning, right? And why it's underperformed for so long now.
Well, I mean, what's happened is you could argue that the reason why the treasuries long-term are really facing a recession is because we have a wholesale wipeout for no particular rate, no credit reason. Remember, none of these banks. No, we did have some issues. The banks that went under, I could argue, had credit issues.
Some of them were very unique in terms of their clientele and therefore their lending to some extent. And we do obviously have outflow of deposits, not because of fear, but because of the desire for higher rates.
Right.
So there's that, and then there's the larger question of the ability of these banks to continue to lend given their cost of funds, and what may certainly be a pullback on their part.
Well, but
the idea that everybody should pull their money because they're not going to get it insured has not been proved out.
No, I mean, if you're on the conference calls for the regionals, for the really good regionals, say in Ohio, which are excellent banks, they have very sticky deposits. There's no one pulling out. They're good. But this is a shoot first, questions later, because these indices are bringing these down. Now, if I was once with a CEO who said, listen, I've got to get out of an index because the index is pushing my bank, my company down. These people should be petitioning the SEC and saying, get me the hell out of that index. That is not something that's out of the realm, because when I see I'm going to pick on Comerica for 1 second because it's a great bank. When I see the percentage of uninsured share of customer deposits, a percent above FDIC guaranteed threshold, then you're in a good luck situation, and I don't think they deserve that. I'm defender of these banks. These are the fabric of our country, and if you let them go and decide that the only bank that we should have in this is JP Morgan, then take us back to 1907, which I am now putting in the David, a disgrace what they're doing. It's a disgrace with the FDIC and the Fed, and no one has backed Jay Powell more than I have.
Now you do sound like what Peltz has said to the FT this morning.